Stats play a huge role in the Pokemon series. Each Pokemon has their own set of base stats, which can help you determine the best way to use them in battle. But the way they work is pretty unintuitive, so that's what today's video is about. What's up, fellas? I'm Matt, and today Elias and I are going to look at how stats work in Pokemon, including a common misconception about them, why base stats don't tell the whole story, and what would happen if a Pokemon had a base stat total of 0. Alright, let's get started.
What's up? I'm Elias, and let's start by taking a look at two Pokemon. Fletchling has a base attack stat of 50, and Throw has a base attack stat of 100, so it might seem like Throw would hit twice as hard as Fletchling, but that's not really the case. Doubling a base stat and doubling a Pokemon's actual stat are two different things.
That's because the base stat is just one factor that gets plugged into this formula, which determines which stats are actually being used in battle. Your Pokemon's level, nature, EVs, and IVs also affect where their final stats end up. Let's say we maxed out Fletchling and Throw's attack stats. We'll give them both an adamant nature, perfect attack EVs and IVs, and set them to level 100. In this case, Fletchling's attack stat winds up being 218, and Throw's is 328. It's only about a 1.5 times difference instead of 2 times.
When Pikachu holds the Light Ball, its attack and special attack stats double. This doubling effect is applied to its actual stat values instead of the base stats. Its base special attack stat is 50, but if it holds a Light Ball, it'll hit quite a bit harder than something like Venusaur, who has 100 special attack. If we give Pikachu and Venusaur the same EVs, IVs, and nature, Light Ball Pikachu will always be stronger. This is a common misconception about how stats work. It's easy to assume that doubling a Pokemon's actual stat is equivalent to doubling their base stat, but as you can see from these examples, that isn't the case.
Let's also take a look at base stat totals. For the most part, they're a good way to guess if a Pokemon is good or not. Raticate has a base stat total of 413, and Hippowdon's total is 525. Based on that information alone, it would seem that Hippowdon is a better Pokemon in battle, which is indeed the case for the most part. But base stat totals can be misleading as well. They don't tell you the full story of how strong a Pokemon is.
In most scenarios, Pokemon will only use one attacking stat at a time. Espeon's base attack stat is 65, but its special attack is 130. So if you want to get the most damage out of your Espeon, you should stick to teaching it special moves. Psychic Fangs is a real move?
Yeah.
Since when?
Since Gen 7 or so,
Didn't
I
play
think.
It. Oh wait,
yes,
yes
did.
I did.
Didn't use a Bruxish, I guess.
Guess not. The special move Psychic is going to hit way harder than the physical move Psychic Fangs, thanks to the difference between its attacking stats.
And now that I say that, you're probably gonna go and use Psychic Fangs Espeon in a playthrough to spite me.
No.
Good. If a Pokemon is only using one of their attacking stats, which is usually the case, then the stat they're not using doesn't really matter. All it's gonna do is inflate your base stat total. Rillaboom has a total of 530, including 125 attacking, 60 special attack. There's not much of a reason to use special moves on a Rillaboom, so if we lowered its special attack stat to 1, it would still play pretty much the same, especially in competitive contexts. Lowering its base stat total from 530 to 479 doesn't really make a difference, even though 479 seems a lot less impressive on paper.
Of course, that's not always the case. Some Pokemon can be used as mixed attackers, which means they use physical and special moves on the same set. One of the most notable examples is Infernape. Its attacking stats are perfectly balanced, 104 attack and 104 special attack. Nice! It can also learn all the boosting moves you could ever need. Bulk Up, Calm Mind, Nasty Plot, Swords Dance, the list goes on. So that means it can do big damage with Overheat, Flare Blitz, Close Combat, Grass Knot, Infernape Punch, whatever you want really. What is Infernape Punch?
That is a fake move, thanks for asking.
Okay, so some viable movesets use some physical and some special moves, but it's way more common for Pokemon to pick one attacking stat to use.
In fact, if you're using a special attacker, it's optimal to make its physical attack stat as low as possible. There are several mechanics that punish you for having a high attack stat. If you get confused and you hit yourself, you take more damage if your attack stat is higher. That's because confusion damage is calculated with a standard damage formula. The game plugs in your own attack and defense stats and has you attack yourself with a 40 base power physical move with no type. So the lower your attack stat, the less confusion damage you take.
Foul Play works in a similar way. It's a dark type move that uses the target's attack stat to deal damage, instead of the user's. It's 95 base power as well, making it one of the strongest dark moves in the game. So that's another reason special attackers would rather have low attack stats. Foul Play deals less damage in that case.
Strength Sap is a weird move, man, but it also punishes you for having a high attack stat. Strength Sap lowers the target's attack stat by 1 stage. Then the user recovers HP equal to that attack stat. So for example, Dragonite's attack can get as high as 403, so if it gets hit by Strength Sap, the move's user will heal 403 HP. That's enough to heal every Strength Sap user in the game back to full health. It'll heal even more if Dragonite used something like Dragon Dance too. So the weaker you are on the physical side, the less health your opponents can get out of you with this move. If a Pokemon had a base special attack stat of 220 and attack stat of 100, it'd be better with an attack stat of 0.
There are many situations where a low base speed stat is preferable too. We made a whole video about that a while back, but one of the most common reasons you'll want to be slow is Trick Room. By using this move, you flip flip the speed order in the battle for 5 turns. Normally, the fastest Pokemon moves first, but under Trick Room, the slowest Pokemon gets the advantage instead.
Ice Rider Calyrex has a base speed stat of 50, for example, which is pretty slow. But since it can learn Trick Room, it can flip that disadvantage on its head and move before most other Pokemon. Low speed stats make plenty of other Pokemon viable, as long as you use them on the right team.
Aside from all of that, stats aren't the only thing that determines how good a Pokemon is in battle. Nidoking's stats aren't terrible, but they're not that high either. Despite that, it's seen a good deal of success in competitive play, and that's mostly thanks to 2 factors. For starters, Nidoking's move pool is absolutely gargantuan, and that's always been the case. Gen 1 Pokemon's move pools always seem to be either massive or non-existent, with no in-between, especially in their debut gen. Anyway, Nidoking has access to just about every coverage move you could ever want. Its attacking stats are both pretty good, so there's a ton of different ways to use it.
The second thing Nidoking has going for it, at least from Gen 5 onwards, is an absolutely incredible hidden ability, as well as a weird interaction it has with the held item. Sheer Force makes Nidoking's moves 30% stronger, as long as they have a secondary effect. In exchange though, the secondary effects will never trigger. But like, who cares? I don't need to paralyze you with Thunderbolt if you're just gonna faint from the extra damage.
For some reason, and we can't explain why, the recoil damage from Life Orb counts as a secondary effect. When you hold this item, your moves become another 30% stronger, but normally you lose 10% of your HP whenever you attack. For whatever reason, Sheer Force cancels out the recoil damage, and it only cancels out Life Orb damage. You'll still hurt yourself if you use a move like Double Edge.
The Sheer Force and Life Orb boost stack multiplicatively, which means most of Nidoking's moves are 69% stronger than usual. Nidoking isn't quite a top tier Pokemon, but it's been hanging out in the UU tier for over 20 years. That's the second highest standard tier in singles, and it's been there ever since Gen 3. That's pretty good for a Pokemon with stats like this.
The distribution of your stats also matters. Clodsire's base speed stat of 430 is really low, but it's ranked in OU because of its stat distribution, as well as how its stats synergize with its ability. It's got 130 HP and 100 special defense, which makes it a good special wall. Its ability Unaware pairs perfectly with stats like that. Whenever Clodsire is targeted by a move, Unaware will make it ignore the attacker's stat changes. That means you can't use boosting moves to muscle through a Clodsire, so things like Nasty Plot or Calm Mind are off the table.
Clodsire's attack, special attack, and speed stats are all pretty low, but it doesn't care. It's not trying to one-shot you with close band. What? It's not trying to one-shot you with choice band boosted earthquakes. Heck, sometimes it doesn't even run earthquake as its ground stab. Some players choose to use bulldoze instead, because it has more power points. That allows Clodsire to just sit there eating hits and clicking buttons for longer. It doesn't mind that bulldoze is way weaker. Clodsire can also keep itself alive with moves like recovery and amnesia.
Did you see my story on Instagram? The Cardinal.
Yeah, I did.
You didn't like it. You're not a real friend.
What? I mean, you don't like most of mine either.
That's true, but this is a really good photo.
You salty little man.
Clodsire is no one-trick pony either. It's a two-trick pony.
So true!
Unaware is an incredible ability, but its other choices aren't half bad either. Sometimes you might go for Water Absorb instead. That can potentially catch your opponents off guard if they're expecting you to have Unaware. As a poison ground type, Clodsire is normally weak to water. Having an ability that cancels out that weakness is really nice as well. You might be able to heal without using Recover's limited power points, so even though it doesn't have a very impressive base stat total, Clodsire is still one of the best defensive Pokemon in the game.
Clodsire's stat distribution makes it a good Pokemon in battle, but we could very easily do the exact opposite as well. If I told you there was a Pokemon with a base stat total of 710, you'd probably think it's pretty good. Well, what if I told you it had 700 speed and 2 in every other stat? Yeah. You can't really, do anything with a high speed stat if everything else is so low. You'd go first, deal 6 damage, and die. Which is, incidentally, what happens when I get into a fight with anybody.
Did you know that the average male is 4,000% less effective in a fight than they believe they would be?
I once saw a chart that was like, oh yeah, a lot of American guys think that they can beat an elephant in a fight.
Yeah, that you definitely cannot. This is an impossibility.
That's obviously an extreme example, but we can see this kind of thing with actual Pokemon too. Glalie and Hisui and Lilligant both have base stat totals of 480. Lilligant has seen more success in competitive singles this gen, and that's partially because Glalie's stat distribution is terrible. It's got 80 in every stat across the board, which is really not what you want. It's not very fast, it doesn't hit very hard, and it's not all that bulky either. Perfectly balanced stats don't work well unless they're all high.
Hisui and Lilligant trades in a good deal of special attack and some bulk, but in exchange it's physically stronger and faster than Glalie. That's part of the reason Glalie is in the bottom competitive tier ZU, but Lilligant was banned from NU 2 tiers up. We're glossing over a lot of other details about these Pokemon, as well as the rules of these metagames, but our point is that a good stat distribution does go a long way. In most cases, Pokemon are better off having a few good stats and a bunch of mediocre ones, instead of 6 that are exactly the same. Mythical Pokemon like Mew and Arceus have perfectly balanced stats too. Arceus.
Yeah, man.
But they're significantly higher than Glalie, so these guys are much better in battle. For more videos like this, subscribe to MEPlaysGames and consider becoming a channel member. Open bracket. Hey Elias, you got anything you want to plug? Close bracket.
I'm guessing that's a no?
Why would I have something I want to plug?
Let's explore a question we posed in the intro. What would happen if Pokemon had a base stat total of 0? With no stats whatsoever, you might expect it to always die in one hit, not be able to deal damage, and always move last, but that isn't actually the case. Thanks to the way stats are calculated, a 0 base stat total Pokemon could actually function in battle. I mean, I'm using the word function here pretty loosely. It'd be absolutely terrible. But hey, it wouldn't force the game to divide by 0 and crash it, so that's something, right?
Whenever a base stat is plugged into the formula, the game adds a small number at the end, which ensures that no Pokemon will ever have an actual stat of 0. The HP formula adds on your level plus 10, and the formula for every other stat adds 5. So even if you have a base stat total of 0, you'll never have less than 11 HP, the one exception being Shedinja, of course, and your other stats will always be at least 4. That's because if the formula spits out 5, and you have a nature that lowers that stat, the game will round it down to 4. Is this why like level 1 Pokemon have like 4s and 5s? And 6s as your stats?
Yeah, that's exactly it. The stat formula also takes several other factors into account besides the base stat. Your level and nature are part of the formula, and so are your EVs and IVs. Even if a Pokemon had a base stat total of 0, it could still have up to 204 HP and 109 of the other stats. Is that good enough to do anything whatsoever in battle? Sure, as long as you're level 100 and everything else is level 20.
There actually are some Pokemon with base stats of 0. Well, sort of. Generation 1 features a bunch of glitch Pokemon, and they kind of tear the game to shreds. Some of them are normal type. They learn moves past level 100, some of them are part of 4-stage evolution lines, they've got glitch moves that deal random damage, then crash the game, and their stats are all over the place. There's a glitch Pokemon in red and blue with 0 base defense, and there's one in yellow with 0 speed. Both of them are missing though. Big Yellow made 2 great videos about glitch Pokemon in Gen 1, so go check those out after this. Links in the description.
Gens 1 and 2 have their own stat formula, but they also won't let you have a final stat of 0. These formulas do the same thing as the modern ones. They add your level plus 10 to your HP, and 5 to every other stat, to make sure they're always a positive number. So even though Missing No has a base defense stat of 0, it can still survive a physical hit. That being said, it's still unbelievably frail. On top of 0 defense, Missing No has 33 HP and 29 special, so it's not exactly the paragon of bulk. All of our examples from now on will be using Galarian Stunfisk.
Go ahead.
Galarian Stunfisk has a base stat total of 413, and Galarian Stunfisk's total is 525. See, it doesn't work now, does it?
No, unfortunately not.
You know, I made a short about how Rhydon can learn Surf, and a lot of the comments were, alright, so now can you tell me why I can learn Thunderbolt? I don't know, man, Rhinos are just like that.
Continue reading.
No.
For all of you kids at home, if your friend does not like every single post that you make on social media, you should cut them out of your life. Well, that's all we got for today with an orange A. Leave a comment with any thoughts you have on this topic, and with any videos you'd like to see us make. We'll see you... God, I hate you, Matt.
Love you too, man.
We'll see you, with a green O and U, all next time. Good night, fells. Sleep well.
Oh no! The script was going so well.